Hey, what's up? How's it going? You're all very welcome to episode 52 of Buckshot for today, Thursday. I'm just lashing this out on Thursday because I think tomorrow's a bit bananas. Thursday the 29th of March, 2018. Oh, Christ. How often do you get asked the date during the day and you're just like, I haven't a fucking clue. Haven't a clue. But we're all weather experts and whatnot. You're all very welcome. Thank you very much for jumping on board. We've had some new listeners from some new places during the week. We'll chat about that in a minute. I won't keep you for too long before we get to today's guest. Dublin have screamed into number one this year this week in the downloads list. But strangely and quite excitingly, a place called Panorama City in California. Panorama City, if you don't mind. I'm guessing you can see it from all angles. No, I'm not even going to make a shitty joke about Panorama City. But usual suspects are in there, the likes of Belfast, Glasgow, London, pulling it up. San Francisco, in at number 9, but still holding in there in the top 10. Lisburn, good old Lisburn is back in the fucking play. High Wycombe, say no more. High Wycombe came in at number 5. But I think the biggest surprise for everybody this week has to be Casablanca has come in at number 7. Who the fuck is in Casablanca? Huh? Casablanca in Morocco. By God, fair play to you. Jesus. I don't know who'll be listening to my musings in Casablanca, but I'm guessing there's nobody sets up like bots to listen to podcasts today. Maybe they do. I don't know. They'll not sure how interesting they'd find me, but you're all very welcome. To anybody new who's welcome, whatever you're listening to it on, if it's iTunes, SoundCloud, or you're listening directly through my podcast or through my website, tomohany.com, for anybody who's wondering. Hit subscribe, share, tell everybody about it. And do you know what? Anybody who's listening on iTunes, because this is a thing I've just been advised to do, I think it higher the ratings. Would you leave an owl if you like it? Leave an owl nice message, because you can only do it, I think, if you have iTunes. You can leave me messages all you want through the comments. Through my website, you can leave comments if you have something to say on an issue or whatever. Not that there's too many issues. My shit isn't. I don't. And as I found, we've so much things swirling around now, and there's so many things voicing their opinions on this thing and that thing. Your average Joe and Josephine just puts their trousers on and their fucking lady trousers on one leg at a time and goes to fucking work. These are the normal folks. It's just normal folks. It's just normal chatting. But if you do feel free to leave a comment anywhere you like. But if you're leaving it, if you like it, give it a 5 stars. If you don't like it, or if you're, don't bother, because it would seem it's like I'm probably saying this to people who are going, why would I leave less than 5 stars, Tom? Exactly. If it's less than 5 stars, don't. It's not beneficial to anybody if it's less than 5 stars. Personally, I wouldn't put a star system in it, but I'd just put in a fucking sound bastards, leaving sound bastard fucking quotes of, hey Tom, keep up the good work, enjoy this shit. It steers other people to the podcast, and we make our community a bit bigger. Jesus Christ, I'm tripping over my own fucking words. Anyway, you get the gist. If you want to find me anywhere else, obviously you can find me through Instagram at Tom O'Mahony Comedy, where I put up stupid shit like ice creams and the dog saying outlandish things. Of course, it isn't the dog. And brilliantly, nobody gets stressed. I've seen people I find this offensive, under some people putting things up like that a cat or a gerbil would have said. They can't talk. You can't talk. Relax. It's a joke. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's a joke. Also, to anybody who wants to help, a couple of more people funded this week, got on with Patreon. If you haven't heard of Patreon, it's essentially for any artist. It's not like people trying to scam money or whatever, but this shit costs money and costs time. It's not that I'm trying to make any money out of it, but I do want to get better gear, and it would be great if it was, part funded by some of the gang that actually listen, because this is going to be, I'm not going to knock this, I'm not going to quit this. This is going to be an ongoing thing forever, really, but I want to get better gear for it, i.e. better sound equipment. And the one I want is I think it's a H4. So this is a H2 I record on now. A Zoom H2, which is perfect and mobile and all the rest of it, but just for clarity, you know what I mean? Things like somebody scratching their fucking head, like I'm doing right now, which you possibly can hear, doesn't get picked up, so you can, you actually have separate mics. This is all one contained unit, and like I said, handy out, but not primo crispo in your earo. So things like me cracking my knuckles just there for no reason won't pop up and stuff. Later down the line, I'd like to get a decent camera as well to film it, so we can do proper filming. The GoPro is grand for the minute. I totally forgot the fucking thing for today's one, so there'll be no. But I'm putting up ones, and I've 2 broken down from Damo Clark to put up, and I'm going to be putting them up on the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Tom O'Mahony Buckshot. I'll put the link in the whatchamacallit. If you feel like it, sling it $1 or whatever you feel like. Some people have thrown in a tenner. Legends, absolute fucking legends. Anybody who look, you'll get a shout out on this anyway. But it's just all essentially going towards the fucking gear, and like that. If you want to check out the out website, you know something about websites, fill me in, tell me what you think. If you want to see more shit added to it, it's tomomahony.com. Very simplistic. Again, I'll put it in the description along with today's guests' details and all the rest of it. Other than that, no sponsor this week. It'll be next week, I think. The sponsor is back. So let's get straight into it. Where was I gigging last? Last Friday I was in Balbriggan with the mighty Eric Lawler and Patser Murray. It was a charity, but it's actually, well, it's raising money for, I mean, we you get paid, but it was a fantastic gig. It was in a hotel, and you never know how these are going to go, but Jesus Christ, they packed the fucking room out with about 300 people. And they were wild. These were not redneck, blue collar, regular folk who were just up for a fucking laugh. The brakes were off, you know what I mean? There was no, not that I care too much, because my stuff isn't particularly controversial, but I do speak in a way where some softer natured folk would go, oh, Jesus, I'm not used to that. These folk were used to it. They were ready to rock from the outset. It was good. It was a good, fun gig. I was down in Cork then over the weekend with another thing. But gigs get busy now this weekend. I'm in, where am I? Tomorrow night, Friday night, Good Friday. Good Friday, by God, I've never gigged on a Good Friday. Good Friday, I'll be in Chaplin's Comedy Club. Good Saturday, great Saturday, says you. I'll be in Chaplin's Comedy Club. And Sunday night, I'm going to be in Abbey Leaks in the Manor Hotel in Abbey Leaks. I'll be there with Pat McDonnell, former guest, Mark Doheny, and Totally Wired. I'll be there with. Fucking hell, Good Friday. The pubs are open for anybody outside of Ireland who doesn't know Ireland very well. The pubs forever and a day have been closed on Good Friday, just like they are on Christmas Day. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't see the big deal, you know what I mean? It was, it's grand. Yeah, hey, great for me, I'm gigging and all the rest of it. But, I mean, it's fucking, I don't know. It's kind of I like Irishy things sometimes. And, I mean, of course, everybody's like, oh, fuck the church. But aside from the church, I was just kind of thinking, is it not a kind of a good day to, maybe to not, it's a Friday. Can you get invented? It kind of brought parties out of people. I went to parties on Good Friday. They were always great. Now they're gone. It's just another fucking Friday now. And of course the pubs win. You know what I mean? It's the pubs that win out of all of this. So, the party scene is gone. Do you know what I mean? So, in that sense, I'm not going to fucking labour on it again. Each to their own. If people are making money and people are making wages, happy days. But like that, the old parties of Good Friday are now gone. I did, I know I've said about the jokes of, it's just an animal and they're not actually talking. I put up one on Instagram this week. Most people probably listen to the podcast, probably follow me and stuff, but I couldn't help it. I think I talked a little bit about it last week, about your man, he actually got convicted, the guy with his pug. Now, what he was saying, if anybody hasn't seen this, or I don't know, it slipped by you in the news. Essentially, a guy in Scotland, he's an online comedian. I don't know if he does stand up or whatever, but he does an online comedian. And he, I don't know what his political connotations are, but he had a pug, his girlfriend's pug, and she was videoing him or whatever, and he had the pug doing a Nazi salute, and he was saying "gas the Jews," "gas the Jews." I mean, it was a poor choice of words. It wasn't a particularly funny joke. I mean, was he taking the piss out of Nazis? Maybe he was, but regardless, it was just whatever. It's just a dog saying silly words. It's a man pretending the dog is saying silly words. From that, he got convicted. I was like, are you going to convict the pug as well? But he got convicted of hate crimes, inciting hate crimes. I was like, what? Fucking what? How? Who the fuck is seeing that and going, righto, you're dead right. Yeah, fuck all the Jews, I'm joining the Nazis. It just blew my fucking mind that, I mean, whatever about, I don't know, I mean, I don't, I'm not a preacher of things politically and all the rest of it, but what? Is that totally, like, is everybody okay with that? Like, that a fella, like, whether he's a gobshite or it was not a particularly funny thing, it's just words. And it's a silly words with a pug? What? So, just those words. And they said it doesn't matter the context. You just can't be saying that shit. So, if you were to do a period correct movie, and, you know what I mean, say set in the late 1930s or whatever, and you can't have Nazis saying things like that because it would upset people, but it would ruin this. You know what I mean? It just, so I put up a picture of the dog, me, you know, Tom Dog in conversation, and the conversation being, did you hear about this guy and his pug who got arrested for hate? You really have to be careful. And the thing of way I've been doing it of late is like just having the dog saying outlandish fucking things, or just being a dick. And of course I have the dog saying up the Ra, which to anybody outside of here, outside of Ireland, up the Ra. The Ra is a shortened version, Republican Army, shortened version of the IRA. Again, what the fuck? Like, it's a silly throwaway thing, but you'd be surprised the amount of people that would normally like my stuff didn't like this. Because again, they're not that they probably didn't find it funny. They're probably going, "Ooh, I'll stand back from that because, you know, it might be a little right. It might be a little right of centre." No, it's not. It's me and a fucking schnauzer acting the bollocks. That's all. But yeah, the dog is on the mend anyway. She's, well, I say on the mend, she's a fucking 110% for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ, she's absolutely grand. It would seem Granny is on the mend as well. We'll cross our fingers. There was a couple of people messaging me and asking me about Granny. Grandma, she's back on, yeah, she seems to be the comeback kid. She's, we'll see, fingers crossed for her. I'm not going to be asking people for prayers and all that stuff. Like, it's just, you know, I said I'd give people an update that were asking. Yeah, moving swiftly along. Did you hear anybody past guest? I think he's from episode 4, I think it was, Spike O'Sullivan. I know I was talking about him getting to fight Canelo Alvarez, who'd be like number 2 in the world on the middleweights at the minute, I would imagine, or he'd be right up there anyway. He's a huge draw. He was to fight him after Canelo Alvarez fights Triple G in May. Spike was lined up to fight him in September. But it looks like Alvarez is after failing a drug test for taking clenbuterol, which he is claiming it's as a direct result of eating beef because his country is riddled with fucking growth hormones. I mean, you know what, Canelo? Fuck you. Fuck you. You know where you're from, and you know that South America is absolutely no, in fact North America as well, kind of doesn't have much in the way of restrictions when it comes to growth hormones in cattle. Hence why their cattle are walking around with, and people are walking around with like big massive necks and stuff. It's a direct result. And that's not just Tom's silly thinking. I have actually inquired to an expert on genetics and whatnot and foodie stuff. Jesus Christ, I sound like a genius, don't I? But it is as a direct result. So yeah, it looks like he's after failing a drug test, and there we go. And I mean, if the promoters can get in right, they can go, well, you know what? If he can't do it, Spike's in good shape. He's been training to fight this guy, so why doesn't Spike fight you? So hopefully I'm going to ring Spike later on and see what the fucking feel is. I might even get to call out to the gym if I have time, because I know he's out training in Celtic Warrior today. So it could be a fucking life changer if he gets to fight Triple G for the titles in Vegas May 5th, because he reckons he's ready to fight. So fingers crossed. He's, as and anybody listen back to that one, he's one of the calmest, nicest fellas. Like all the fighters are. All fighters are. They're just, these are people who don't have to put on a show because they knock people out for a fucking living. You know what I mean? And another big news as on the fighting terms, Will Fleury from episode 34, I think, has now been signed by Bellator. The undefeated middleweight has been signed by Bellator. Fair fucking play to him. It was if anybody, like, he's just demolishing people. So if anybody is due it, it's Will Fleury. More power to the two fucking boys, because when you're putting in that kind of work that most of us don't put into life, these guys are getting, their every waking moment is thought about fighting. Their every waking meal is thought about their job. You know what I mean? How they conduct themselves is all about, you know what I mean? Can you imagine doing any job to that length, where you get out of bed in the morning and every single facet of your day is dedicated to your job? Every single, your waking moment is dedicated to your job. Holy fuck. I'd say the world would be fairly efficient. We could probably get rid of a good quarter of us, I'd say. Half of us even. I'd say if we were all that efficient at our job. Then again, if you want to be a job that you fucking love, lads love fighting. So I suppose that if you're, you know what I mean, if you're sweeping up the aisles in Tesco's, maybe if you do, if you love it, then fucking why not go 110% at it? Anyway, moving swiftly along. Like I said, gigs this weekend. Check them out on tomomahony.com. If you're feeling generous and we want to see the show improve sound wise, go to Patreon. I'll put it in the description. Or do you know what? Be sound as a pound if you're listening on Apple. Go into the old iTunes link that you're listening to this on and leave a sound out fucking 5-star there and just say whatever you're fucking feeling. But if it's a 5-star, leave it with me, because it helps more people fucking find it apparently. I don't know. I have no idea how this works. Moving on to today's guest, Paul Woodfull. I met Paul first when he came back onto the comedy scene in his character form of Ding Dong Denny O'Reilly. If you haven't ever heard of him, Ding Dong Denny, he's got some fucking, it's all tongue-in-cheek with almost, he's a parody of a fucking, like an old folky Dublin singer, a bit of a bowsy, as they'd say, but he's done fucking tons. Like he had a very successful tribute band of ABBA-esque. I think it was him and his brother. We talk about it briefly, but he also by accident had a very popular and successful U2 parody band, which again we kind of get into. It was by accident, but he was at the cutting edge of the punk scene in Dublin back in 1970. And also, obviously, his latest character, Ding Dong Denny O'Reilly, but he writes an awful lot too, and he's written, he has a new album out, which is kind of digital music more than anything, and I was listening to this, actually fucking class. Again, I'll put the link in the description here, but what he's probably most notable for is the fact that he's one of the co-writers of the very successful musical, Keano, which it depicts the kind of the carry-on that went on with Roy Keane the time he left the Irish team in Saipan at the World Cup. Other than that, like he's always, he's making music for stuff all the time. And we recorded this in his studio, in his actual, it's a shit, I fucking love what he has. He has this class fucking sound studio down the end of his garden. Fucking, it'd be just deadly to have it. You'd live in the thing, you're so cozy. We had a great fucking chat. Went on longer than I thought. I think we probably both thought it went on longer than we were expecting. So I'll move swiftly on in. So please enjoy and go crazy for the fantastic Paul Woodfull. There we are, Paul Woodfull. Thank you very much. We're in the beautiful surrounds of your Scandinavian cabin here.
Right, yeah.
It's cozy, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah, it heats up nicely. I won't bore people with the details of the amount of insulation. And
you wouldn't believe the amount of people that do love that kind of stuff. Because it's the only thing that I ever get corrected with, like when I talk about like technical stuff, and that's the only thing people that listen to my podcast, they don't give a shit if I get a subject wrong. Right, or if I've said something completely inappropriate. They're just okay. They'll go, no, Tom. On the facts of what you're talking about there, we'll pull you up on it. We were talking just about gigging and the various things.
Oh, yeah.
The time where was it? Was it in Waterford?
It was in Waterford.
Waterford County.
Down the south. What is it done? Wherever it was a sea, quite a nice sort of
gorgeous little spot.
Yeah. Wasn't Dungarvan, was it?
No, because Dungarvan was a much bigger town, but it wasn't far from there.
It was sort of, right down, and it was, it was probably, it might have been the worst gig I've ever done. So, certainly, you had a great gig, actually, as I recall.
All I could do was shout at him at that stage.
Yeah, I should have shouted. I don't know. And it wasn't that they were unpleasant. It was just that thing that I mean, I hadn't really, I hadn't done comedy clubs very much up to that point. Really, I think I started doing comedy clubs with Joe, and then I kind of figured out a few things. Oh, right, this is what you need to do when you're doing comedy club. I was used to doing gigs and wheelings with this thing and all that, and so I really got off to a bad start. And there was that thing, the audience, they were trying to be nice, but it just wasn't happening.
It was never going to work.
So it was never going to work.
It was a bar restaurant thing, and they had it set up for about 100 people.
Yeah,
and
right.
There was about 30 at most spattered around the few seats.
Yeah, I think even less. I think it was about 10 or something.
Yeah, do you know this is what happens to your? They call this the Mandela effect. Like when you, when you definitely have yourself convinced that it wasn't as bad as, but it was like just the dose of getting down to it, and then how did that gig even come about?
They called me, and I think somebody else had said to them about something or other, and the woman was very nice to deal with. I kind of think, I don't know whether it was also because I had a PA was kind of one of the carrots on their side.
You're the lad who could bring the ball. Of course you're going to make the team. You brought the ball.
So I think that was it. Yeah, I think I think I've gotten a few gigs. I got a few gigs back in the day because I had
you the gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew a fella. All right, he had he's from out the Hoth way, and he'd a really class stage, an actual stage you could fold up, and it looked the business carpet.
Right, I know those jokes. Yeah,
he bought it from one of these music crowds or whatever, and it looked the business. And I think he may have had a PA system too, and he was pretty much on back 5-6 years ago. He was on every gig I went to that was in a random place. He seemed to be on it.
Yeah.
And then it became apparent. It was like, oh, you've the gear.
Yeah. Mind you, I have a feeling as well that you tend to get dodgy gigs because you've got a PA.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're turning up to a place that doesn't have any gear at all, the questions have to be asked straight away. Like, how? And that was your Ding Dong Denny car. I loved him because he was so on PC.
It was, I know. It was, well, it was, I suppose, from his point of view.
Yeah.
His thing was. You were doing everything from his point of view, so at least you had the,
you could blame him
the excuse of blaming him. Yeah,
where did he come from then?
It originated. How it first came about was myself and Joe Rooney were asked. Do you remember this program, The End, on RTE?
Yes,
Barry Murphy used to do, and Barry asked us to. He used to ask various people to come up with things for the program, and we kind of came up with the idea of a ballad group, and we just within a week we wrote some song. And
you were the Hairy Bowsies,
the Hairy Bowsies,
yeah.
And then we did that. And then we kind of got together a bit more and wrote more stuff. A good chunk of what we ended up doing with the thing for years, we came up with over a relatively short space of time. It was one of those things when the idea is there, it sort of half writes itself, and we were doing it and whatever. It was it wasn't really like it became. It was kind of a bit mad and a bit all over the place. And I can't really remember what happened. Then we stopped doing it. But I can't remember whether Joe got busy doing something or I got busy doing another band or another thing or something. And then we just stopped doing it. And then I was doing this ABBA tribute band then. Actually, ABBA-esque, which was probably my most successful in terms of earning. I mean, it just took off, this thing. Myself and my brother did it, and it just took off, and we're gigging like 27 gigs in a month, driving and humping the gear and the whole thing, and eventually I gave it up, but I was nearly driven mad, because I was miming keyboards in that, basically, for 2 years, and...
Why are you miming keyboards when you can clearly play
we had all the keyboards on backing track, so it was very complex backing tracks, and no one was really using backing tracks then. It was partly live, partly backing track, using a click track and all this kind of thing. And so we really put a lot of effort into getting it pretty slick. And but anyway... eventually just sitting in the van night after night. I nearly went mad, so I started writing a whole load of Ding Dong songs. Actually, there was a programme on Radio Ireland, which was Now Today. They used to get me in to do Ding Dong, and that kind of got me back into it a bit. And then I started writing more songs for it, and eventually, more or less, largely, I think, in the back of the van, I wrote the Ding Dong album, really, and then went in and recorded the thing, you know, and my brother was on the bass, and various people who were in these bands. The Lamb Tarts were playing on the album, and then the guys from Keano ended up putting all what I might have called the diddly eye stuff on it. Brilliant musicians.
Jeez, Keano,
and like, I mean, you know, they came in for one night and they put all the, you know, every traditional instrument on in about 2 hours. You know, one take. In fact, I almost remember there was one guy, Russell and he seemed to be almost putting two things down at the same time at one point, as far as I can remember. I think he had the spoons and something else.
He was so Irish.
It was like, my God, multitasking, Christ, you know, you know. But anyway, but that was. And then, like, so I kind of then basically took the character I had, Ding Dong Denny O'Reilly, and Joe was Scribbler O'Donoghue, and I kind of just brought it back out and brought the album out. And Joe is on the album as well, so he came in and sang on the tracks that I had written with him. I got him to be sort of doing a double act on them, you know. And so, but then I kind of relaunched it, but I kind of thought a lot more about it and got the look and the idea, and it was a lot more satirical second time round. It was more about, you know, nationalism and all of that stuff, you know, and so, and it was, you know, and obviously all that was going on in Ireland at that time was before the Good Friday Agreement, so it was very much in people's minds, you know. I think that was one of the things when I brought it back. I had to change it again when I started doing the comedy clubs, because young people in the comedy clubs didn't really know anything about it, which seemed surprising to me. But, like, you know, it was like, yeah, right, whatever. Like, you know, but when I had been doing it whatever number of years earlier, like, it was very much like, you know, almost taboo, you know, some of the stuff.
Okay, you know. Right, it's the other side of it, right. And I mean, is it because I know you did some of your videos and stuff, and I was often looking at it like, because going, you should be. I mean, I suppose this is where the artist in you probably comes. It can be a failing, because you see lads that are internet sensations and all the rest of it, and they're only internet sensations because they're pumping out content, massive amounts of content. They're able to turn out one of these things
I know
once
the
a week,
YouTubers.
and. But
or twice a day. My son, there's Dan TDM who does 2 a day. I think he earns about 5 million a year or something. This young English guy, my son is obsessed with him. Actually,
but this is what I'm saying, is that you could nearly. At what point do you go, all right, do I just pump out any old shite, or do I go once a month and I put one out? Like, you know, this is the dangers of it, isn't it? Because you couldn't.
I suppose you have to understand the medium, which I can't say I do. I mean, I look, my son, who's 10. I mean, he streams his own videos and all the rest, and like, he understands this world. And you're looking. I mean, who saw that coming?
Nobody saw
5 million a year playing computer games and talking about it.
You know? I cannot wrap my head around it.
You know, if you think you can predict the future, like.
But this, you couldn't have spotted that anyway. I know it's because just talking with lads who, and it's purely off even that side of things, but just like I've interviewed a few like what would be known as internet sensations,
right? Okay.
And they've gone on to stage shows. Then
these would be comedians, I suppose.
They would, but they would have done next to nothing in clubs prior to their online character, and then all of a sudden you're selling Vicar Street. It's a fun. But right, what balance do you find? I wonder. Like, you know, can you to be too good for your own good? Is what you know what I mean? Is what I'm saying. Like,
I don't know. I mean, obviously the nature of it seems to be that you do it very regularly, and maybe it has that slight, you know, we don't watch television but we watch the Champions League. I think the streaming thing in particular, I think there is that idea, whoa, it's live, anything might happen.
I suppose,
I suppose, but I mean, someone like me can't really pretend to understand it. If I did, I wish I did understand it, because even from the point of view of how you actually get people to watch, I think if you're a certain age as well, people of your age aren't doing this thing really.
Yeah, well that's
so you need to be, whereas people their age are.
You'd be guaranteed that other 10-year-olds loving it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He does have people who watch it. You know, I mean, it's very much, he's just started doing it, but it's kind of an interesting thing, because he goes on and he makes his own titles and all this kind of thing. It's kind of interesting to see it, and he bought a green screen for himself.
Really?
Yeah, for about a tenner on Amazon. He bought a green screen.
Fair play.
But it is. I am fascinated with that. It's just,
it's all going that way. I mean, telly is
and they watch YouTube. Even my youngest daughter, who's 8, she watches a guy called Guava Juice, who basically, his main thing seems to be filling a bath up with stuff and sitting in it like with sweets or something, or slime or whatever.
Like, it's the one that I at least you're the one that when I got this recording device, I went, you know what I'll do now? I've learned that there are tutorials of everything you need to know on YouTube.
Yeah,
let's look at it.
Oh yeah, I learned all about recording music from watching tutorials on YouTube.
The University of YouTube. But what I noticed was there was one called it was titled Unboxing the H2 Zoom.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. So, and that's all it fucking was him taking it out of a box and telling you. And you hear and all he's doing.
I think there is a whole thing of unboxing. They unbox loads of things.
I was talking with a mate of mine, Richie Hayes. He's another singer. Like he's very good with visual effects and stuff like that. But he does a lot of panto, and I've worked with him in panto and stuff. He's going, "Oh, come here." He says, "The young fella has more YouTube followers, and the young fella's only about 4. Has more YouTube followers than I do." And he says, "And I've been singing for 35 years." Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and his kid unboxes toys.
Right,
takes a toy out and says something about how it
I know, it is funny, and
kids love shit being taken out of a box.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of there's all sorts of. It's funny that my 8-year-old, and I don't even know how she discovered these people, like this guy Guava Juice. There was a guy, Zach King,
right,
who I'd actually been watching. This guy trying to learn this program called After Effects, which is an Adobe program.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like how they do film titles and this kind of thing with it. And but then I noticed he does all these magic tricks online. He's a whole other life as this guy doing, like, they're done with things like After Effects. Like, it's actually they're actually really good, I would have said, Zach King's things.
You wonder, did our parents look at us at a certain point and have that same feeling going?
Oh, I know mine did.
Haven't a bollock of notion what's going on there.
Well, mine, like, I suppose me growing up, rock music, long hair, all that stuff, that was like just a mystery to my parents. Like, there was a serious generation, like what they used to call the generation gap was a real thing then. You know what I mean? It was like even in our school, there's always a story I tell about our... I suppose I better be careful how I say it, but this Irish brother that we had, who was, he loved the Irish language to an extreme degree. He was probably the Osama bin Laden of the Irish language. He was a fundamentalist. He was a fundamentalist
squealgoer.
Oh, big time! Like, he told us, in fact, when we were leaving in the summer, he did tell us in Irish that if we forgot about Irish when we left, when we went out that gate in the summer, that we were nothing but slaves. And that how the Israelis freed their minds first and then their country. It was these would be the lectures we would get, but there was one day in the class he used to have this, one of the, as he would have seen it, this was sort of the carrot, the stick was the main approach, but every Friday afternoon we'd have a double Irish class where we'd have quizzes and the like.
So much fun.
In Irish. And he was so mad Republican as well. He'd get annoyed if you called the IRA. They had to be called Hoagling na hÉireann.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And like this would be, he'd smack someone across the face for this, like, and then there was, and then he had this thing where he said, there was in the quiz one day, there was somebody asked the question, what place? Where was the keyboard player from Roxy Music, Brian Eno? Where is he from?
Yeah.
And someone says, he's from England, and the answer, no, he's not. He's from space. Apparently, at that time, Brian Eno apparently was saying that he was an immigrant from space. So, but it was like the look on his face. It was like as if the world, it was like his face sunk. It was like as if the world's gone crazy. Why am I even bothering to teach?
Yeah.
He just like I
hear it cracking
my
inside
life.
his head. Like, yeah.
It's just one of these things like. Yeah, where these moments where you just see, like,
you could see a man questioning all his life choices. Like,
I think we were. I suppose at least we were preconditioned to not be shocked by just about anything. Well, I suppose I was into the punk thing. Mind you, before punk, I was into this thing, macrobiotics, which
what's that?
It was a big thing for a period in the 70s, and it was you ate according to yin and yang and all this kind of thing. And
okay.
Foods were divided up according to yin and yang. I saw that last week there was some macrobiotic cult in Italy.
Really?
Yeah. But it was fairly extreme, like, and you were supposed to stir the pot anti-clockwise. So a bit of a mad period.
How long did that last?
2 years, I think, really, and then punk came along and rescued me from that particular.
Because you had a successful
obsession.
punk band, though, hadn't you?
It wasn't successful, really, but it was. It managed to get.
It had
its
acclaim
name
anyway.
around.
Yeah.
There were these guys who live in Australia now, and there was this gang in town, basically, who were a gang of young fellas in the late 70s who were the punk guys around town, but and they said they had this band called Skank Mooks,
great name.
None of them at that time could play, and I came along and a friend of mine, and I started hanging out in town.
How do you have a band?
They just have a name, and they'd be spraying it up on the wall and all.
But
this,
you don't have,
and they'd be telling everybody about it. I mean, they were great bunch of blokes.
Brilliant
like, they
PR.
were a good laugh and all. Yeah, and
to
they
be
had
able to
this.
push it your way into having a band and not actually be able to play.
And they would have been in talking today, fanning in the club. I mean, it was a very small scene,
right?
Dublin,
Yeah.
And, like it was sort of a moment really, where suddenly people who hadn't a hope in hell of doing music were able to get in there, and and so then I came along, and basically there would be these gigs where they'd get supports, and like it was literally say, okay, you play that note on the bass, and I'll play the guitar over that, and the fellow who played drums, who became actually a fine drummer, he's playing with the Troubled Pilgrims now, or basically the Radiators from Space, or it's sort of that bunch now, so he's off playing, doing very well with them now, but this was his first drum kit. He just bought the drum kit, but he kind of got the knack pretty quick, but the rest, and then at one period you just have guys talking over this and all the rest. There was one gig we played in the St. Anthony's Hall, which is kind of well known. U2 were supposed to play it, but they wisely pulled out of it. The Virgin Prunes played it, yeah, and there was a whole bunch of people backstage, but it was in this place, St. Anthony's Hall, up near Blackhall Place or something. But it was kind of crazy. I mean, there was someone lit a fire in the middle of the gig, and they were throwing light bulbs at us for whatever reason, which was understandable, in fairness, given how bad we were. But and then I think I
just know that's the vibe of the gig.
I think Gavin Friday's trousers ripped, revealing all in the middle of the gig as well.
Beautiful.
But it was, but it's regarded as a seminal moment by certain people who were around. But there was hardly anyone there.
Nobody else was doing it, though. Do you know what I mean?
Mad. We used to hang around in this shop called No Romance, which is two of the sisters of Johnny Fingers from from the Boomtown Rats owned this shop, and so everybody who was in punk hung around there all day, near enough,
Right.
And but this was where the gig was hatched, the idea for it, and there was some guy who was a bit of a heavy kind of a guy who was going to do security, and the guys, who were two wimps like me, really, that way, like these, and your man says, "Oh, I can't do that gig. You'll have to take care of the security. Look, there's a gun."
What? Hold on one second.
Apparently, he handed them a gun in case things got out of hand. And then, what the hell? I said, "I'm not taking that." We can't do that.
A fucking gun.
Apparently, I don't know. I didn't see this gun.
Where was the gig?
It was in this place, St. Anthony's Hall, and it was kind of famous. But there was some guy who used to come to the gigs as well, and I think one or two of the Virgin Prunes, they worked in an abattoir. There was a few of them worked in an abattoir.
Lovely.
And your man used to bring bits and pieces of home from work, like, like eyeballs and whatever, and he'd be throwing these around the place as well. So...
What?
Yeah, it was kind of mad. I would have been... my interest in punk was probably... My main interest in it was probably I wanted to be able to dress up like David Bowie or something. And put makeup on. Like, that was probably my excuse.
What age were you roughly when you were... Must be very young.
I was probably about 20, which is probably what most people were, really, maybe 19, 20, like all of those, the Sex Pistols and all these. I'd been around their age, really, that kind of...
So when you see a movie like, have you seen Killing Bono?
I haven't seen it. I know about it. I know your man who wrote it. Well, I don't know him very well. I met him a couple of times.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It'd be up. Yeah, you'd look at that and I'd go, right. You fuckers lifted some of my stories by the looks of things, because it sounds that and...
It was kind of mad. It was a bit wild. But Dublin was kind of wild. It was very dangerous as well. I mean, we used to go to this place, the Magnet, up on Pearse Street, but she'd be terrified. There'd be lads, like, from the flats on Pearse Street would be wanting to give punks a hiding. So I used to leave early before the main, but various ones would have been attacked on the way home.
Jeez.
Yeah, I can remember. I remember being very envious of the crowd, like U2 and the Virgin Prunes. They all had a light ace van or a high ace van.
Yeah.
And so they'd arrive. They were kind of posh, really, and they'd have all these clothes they got in London, whereas we couldn't afford to go over.
Yeah.
So you'd be, sewn on lightning streaks onto the back of your jackets and spraying your runners silver and all this kind of.
So could you remember U2 at that stage, like?
Yeah, I saw U2 in the Dandelion twice, and I saw them in the Project Arts and various places, because it was a small little scene, so you would have sort of seen the various ones playing like that, so, and McGonagall's was kind of a place, but, so yeah, like, they would have been around. I mean, Bono used to hang out in that shop, No Romance, and he was very kind of extrovert. My memory of him was that he was very enthusiastic and very very pleasant. And the Edge seemed kind of quiet and very pleasant. I mean, I didn't know them particularly well, but they were just around the scene. But Bono would have been chatty to everybody,
of course,
and all that type of thing, and that kind of, but. It was, but it became very, it became very violent, really, as well. It got very dangerous. I had to stop going into town because there was this bunch called the Black Catholics that used to go to all the gigs, and they were kind of heavy punks, stroke skinheads, and kind of getting into that, and there was a racist element to some of them and all this kind of thing, and... Like, but they were attacking people at gigs, and and I got attacked at a gig, and like it'd be all, as soon as Sham 69 had come on, they'd be in the middle of the floor and everyone else would have to get off. The dance more or less was them kicking each other, as far as I can see. But and of course it is quite funny to say Sham 69, because apparently I think he near enough stopped the band, because he actually hated all that, and yet they became the band who were,
synonymous
all these people.
and
but Yeah, but it became trouble. I remember seeing Stiff Little Fingers' first gig down in the south, and it was in Moran's Hotel, which was a hotel on kind of Gardner Street there. Near Talbot Street, kind of. But I remember after the gig, it was kind of mad because they kind of said, you're not allowed to dance up the front. Anyone who wants to jump around, you have to go into that part in there. It was a section of...
That's the jumping section in there.
And they were in there. But they kicked a wall down, I remember. He just kept kicking it.
Jesus Christ.
And then... But on the way home, then they just were breaking windows in all the shops and in the cars, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be, oh my God. And it just all got a bit kind of, and there was a sort of a split in it. The blousy lads like me, we were one side of this thing, and the other lads.
And we wonder then why our parents couldn't understand.
You two would be very much on the blousy side of things. I mean, it was funny that, in a way, they became... Because when U2 would have played, there came a period where U2 would come on, you two are posers. You two are posers. And all these lads would be shouting up at them, As if, we were all bloody posers. What,
But of course, I suppose music was deadly serious right at that point because it was the only really good outlet, and I suppose breakaway from the previous generation, wasn't it? Music was,
and it was equally important for them. In fact, maybe even more so. Music defined us in those days. I think if someone, that's I think what is hard for people of my generation to fully get into our heads, that music doesn't matter in the way it did then.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to.
It defined us, who you listen to. And if you considered yourself, say in the early 80s, when we would have felt like we didn't fit in, Ireland seemed to have very much a mainstream society, people who were and we were not able to fit into that, felt insecure, and so we wore our stupid hairstyles and mad clothes and whatever. So, but we'd have been into these whatever Joy Division and God knows what, and then the new romantic thing, even when that came in, and but we defined ourselves. It
was all right up until I think it started to kind of wane in the 2000s, did it? Because even through the 90s, really. It was Blur or Oasis.
Yeah, and then the Radiohead. I think.
Yeah.
Was that the swan song, Radiohead? I often think it was.
You might be right, actually.
It was so brilliant that those, OK Computer just seemed so brilliant. But some people said that was the end of the album in a way. It was the last of the CDs, really, and after that, then the streaming thing and all of that, or whatever, the pirating really before the streaming, And it seemed...
Yeah, that could be. Jeez, I never really thought about that. That could have been the turning point of it.
I remember when we were gigging with the bands in the early 90s, it'd be Radiohead, playing Radiohead and Bill Hicks CDs in the van. That was kind of it, and and it was almost, and of course Radiohead were Bill Hicks fans, and they mentioned Bill Hicks on their album, all this kind of thing, and. So it was there was that funny time, and even when you think of Bill Hicks as a comedian, it's and blood, the great bands all took loads of drugs type stuff.
Of course, but I mean, he died like a rock star too. You know what I mean? He went out like a rock star. He spoke on stage and. Yeah,
well, this was it, and so it's a funny thing, but I mean. In saying that, it did define us, but I sometimes I look at these YouTubers and I kind of think, for my son, that's who they aspire to be. We aspire to being rock stars, I suppose. Whatever, all these different people, the punk ones, or even Robert Plant and these people, or whatever, these were people you aspired to being, but now I guess that strikes me with youngsters that may be a thing, but I don't think there's that rebelliousness in
there
society
isn't no
now
kids
as a thing, or
there definitely isn't. I don't think, because, but I suppose I
think there's a good side to it. Maybe they
really
say that it is maybe. Although I didn't think my father was distant, but that idea they were saying that this idea of fathers talking to their son, that idea, this thing of the sons and the fathers falling out, and that seems to not happen so much nowadays.
Possibly, but I think there's just a diverse amount of things for kids to be into, because you can guarantee there are, like, there was probably only sports and music.
Really, there was,
right up to the late 90s, there was sports and music. You were one or the other.
It's pretty true. I mean, the internet did change. I can remember in the 90s saying to people, like, I know that the world has changed and all of the rest of it, but to be honest, it sometimes feels to me like, I remember when I was young in the very early 60s, I said my memory of that is almost like it was black and white then.
Right,
like,
yeah.
It was like Ireland was like the 30s. All the men wore black suits.
Yeah.
And, and Ireland, it just seemed like it was grey. And then I said, you've no idea how... Like, I don't think the swinging 60s ever happened in Ireland, really.
It doesn't seem like it did, no.
When glam rock, we were into glam rock in the early 70s. The difference between 1972 and 1962, it was almost like you could have said
who's the first fella in Ireland,
years of the difference.
Who's the first fella to pull that trigger and get on a set of platforms, like, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Or wear makeup, like, who was the first
fella? Very few people really wore makeup. To be honest, the one person that I can remember... This guy Steve Averill, who ended up designing sleeves for U2, he'd be older than me, and he's in that band, the Troubled Pilgrims now, but he was in the Radiators when he started. I remember him when I used to go into town in about 1973, and he used to look kind of like David Bowie or something like that. But he was like the only one, and he wore... There was a shop called what was it called, actually? Justin Lords, I think. I might be wrong about that. But it used to sell platforms, 4-inch platforms. And I used to look in the window, a little confused in ways, But I was mad into glam rock, but there was no question I was going to be dressing like that. I mean, the main outfit around my area was boot boys, who were kind of like long-haired skinheads, really.
Right, okay.
They might have had something to say if they saw you in makeup, but it's suffice to say. And yet they were all into
turned up looking like Noddy Holder, like her.
Yeah. And but it was funny, like, punk. But Ireland, like, I sort of said, but it's 1972, and when I used to, in 1975, 76, I said in the 90s. The world doesn't feel very different from the 1970s. I mean, people had long hair and they wore flares and blah, 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 which were kind of fashionable in that time in the 90s, that grungy thing. And I said, like, if you walk through Ranelagh or Rathmines, really, it didn't look very different to what it looks now. Whereas 1962 to 1972 was like, as I said, you were transported by 100 years. But I think since then, it seems to me... everything has changed with the internet, and I love all of that, and the streaming and just being on YouTube and television, sort of now almost, it's in big trouble.
It's had to take a back seat, like, realistically, because when you can walk around with your favourite videos immediately in your pocket, like, it's...
I mean, we in our house, like, seem to be obsessed with computers. I have this yoke, which, you know what I mean, and I'm on that all day, really. But the kids are obsessed with computers. My young fellow who's into all the gaming, he'll have a laptop on his knee and he'll be watching the PS4 on the television or whatever, nearly an iPad on the other side, that's like... But, like, because I'm into all that, to me, what I love about this time, like, I have Pro Tools, I have Final Cut Pro, I can edit film, I can do titles with whatever programs you have, and all these plugins. You can make your own album here in the house, which I did do. This album I did this year, electronic album. I did the whole thing in this room. I kind of like I using whatever soft synths inside a computer and sample libraries, and I did it here. I mastered it here. I have mastering software. And, and that's so... For someone from my generation, that was the dream. I mean, to go into a recording studio was, like, ridiculously expensive,
And you're doing this down
now
there?
You can do it here, yeah. Like, it's kind of... like, I've talked to other fellas. One guy who's actually very successful TV, composer, and he said, and I was sort of, because I've been getting more into that kind of stuff, and I said to him, asking his advice and stuff like that, and he's, and I'm saying, like, what's the story? He says, well, like, we're not really using orchestras. There's, 10 grand to have an orchestra doing this stuff. Most TV stuff that's out there now is done by lads like you and me in sheds at the end of their garden. I have a shed at the end of mine. You have a shed at the end of yours.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And, and that's where it's done. And, yeah. But even then, the studios now are smaller as well. Like, I remember watching the Amy Winehouse video, and you're looking, and like the studio she was in recording that first album looked like it was sort of almost at the back of a house somewhere. It wasn't like Abbey Road or somewhere.
Yeah.
And and I saw Trevor Horn in some studio. They were doing a hit, and it looked about twice the size of this here.
Yeah.
This is the way it goes. And the guy who did the stuff for Robbie Williams, his studio was on a program, and we're talking a small studio where I'm sure now if they want to record bigger stuff, they'd go to a bigger room and I suppose or whatever.
It's only really going to be benefited if you're going to film it. You know what I mean? And physically show people that there's a big orchestra here. But if there's not, if nobody's ever going to get to see the studio, then who gives a shit? If it comes out just as good.
Well, this is it. Yeah, but that's it is a brilliant thing about our time that we're doing. I mean, that you can make it. Of course, trying to get people to pay any attention to it is
when an idiot like me can put together something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is what we're doing now. I mean, it's brilliant that can happen, really. I'm sure that people will disagree on this particular occasion.
No, for sure.
So, it's brilliant.
Yeah, fair play to you, lads. Well done, yeah.
With you.
Do you know what? That's the great thing about podcasting. People don't listen to it in the same way. It's a whole different way of thinking, I find. People don't listen to it like they listen to the radio or like they watch TV or how they're happy to have this and go along. It's almost like a voyeuristic kind of vibe where they go, okay, whatever the boys are talking about, I'm just going to listen in. Yeah. You rarely get, never really do you get anybody complaining. No,
that's good news.
Because it's like, it's people have locked on the way their brain is. It's not a public service. And also, at any stage, they can press pause and unsubscribe. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like you're ramming it down their neck or you're asking for, license fee money. You know what I mean? So
that's true, I suppose, yeah. And
there's if you know what I mean, there's a couple of thousand people a week listen to this. And all you ever get is like, lovely job.
I suppose
you mentioned where I'm from there, class.
It's not like you're saying anything mad or anything but libelous, really, but there is the idea that it probably feels a little more real.
Yeah, it feels like a conversation.
On the radio where you feel like you can't say that the little thing in someone's ear saying,
"Oh yeah,
well, that's conversation there."
Oh man, I mean, I was like, and nobody like that I've ever recorded with. I don't think they've ever had. Yeah, I don't think anybody has ever asked for something to be cut out. I don't think so.
Right, yeah, okay.
And like they've said, "Whoa, cheers," and you're like, "Trust me, nobody's going to give a shit." It's a whole different. It's very like. Because there's no agenda to my podcast either. It's not it's a political one and we're going to talk about or there's a mate of mine who I talk about the whole time because he built my website, but he has a very successful one called Those Conspiracy Guys.
Oh yeah. I think I met him.
You would have, Gordon. Yeah, you would. At some stage you would have run into him. Fantastic comedian back in his day, like very good musician. But they do conspiracies and non-conspiracies too, but it's their stuff is subject driven, like so they could have Area 51 one week, and then they may have David Icke, and it'll be a 4 or 5 hour comprehensive, but very funny the whole way through, but comprehensive. Yeah. So there's facts being thrown out. So people do sometimes feel the urge to go, I think you'll find every so often, but with me, because they don't, they're just listening to a chat.
Better be careful. There is a friend of mine who does podcasts, but they have a show where they review podcasts.
Do they? How ironic.
He's telling me, but
has anybody ever reviewed his podcast?
I haven't heard that they have.
It's a good idea for a podcast.
Myself and Patrick and John Caleri did, and Barbara Bergen did we did a comedy podcast, which was a load of work actually with this friend of mine, Matt. And he did a great job of it, but really putting a sketch show together is not really, podcasting isn't the medium for it.
It's not.
It's just too labour intensive.
Unless you could perhaps get if you had a sponsor on board,
Yeah.
or if you could blast it all out one day,
Yeah.
and release it over maybe 6 episodes or something like that.
You did kind of do that, but it's just so hard to get.
Sure, come here. The only reason why I'm doing, like, I've no real agenda to go down anyway. I mean, but I see the work it takes once you have an agenda or you have a team. I can't. Between gigging and everything else, this is just more. This is so much handier.
I mean, it's what I did. It is what the medium's about. It's a bit like the YouTubing as well.
Yeah.
It has to be instant and it has to be simple to do. Like, I mean, I do my own videos here, to some degree for some music that I've done, and but the amount of work that I go into that. Now, it is a bit of a labour of love, so I do it. But you know what I mean. Though it's kind of. It's not the way to go ahead if you think you're going to be making money.
Because I've filmed a few of these podcasts and stuff like that, and just for the crack. And if there was a funny story or whatever, maybe extract it from it. But I suppose because I'm only learning on the go, it's so slow and labour intensive. And to what end, I don't know, because I'm getting far more hundreds more downloads, and people physically listen to the whole thing, and nobody's ever put their hand up and gone, so I don't know, nobody's ever put, I'd love to see some footage of that guy you were chatting to. Nobody seems to be that excited by it, so I don't know, do I bother ever continuing with it?
Yeah.
You don't know, like...
Yeah, because the YouTube-y thing seems to be more of one guy addressing the camera or two people addressing the camera, not really an interview so much. Yeah.
Unless the only way I could do something like that is if I was doing something ridiculously satirical, like pulling the piss out of people giving, what would you call them, like almost tutorial vlogs, like, hi guys, so today we're going to be, the only way I could do something personally I could live with is if I was to do a total piss take to camera, like, teaching people how to, I don't know, fucking pick their nose or something, and knock a good 2.5 minutes out of that.
Yeah,
it's the only way I could sit with myself, but that's somebody of my era too, like,
Yeah, it's funny. But it's just funny generally how the world moves on, isn't it? Anyway,
but my wife, who's only a little younger than me, she does that for her company.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
That's what they do, and she's utterly comfortable doing this. She's like, no. I mean, of course you are when it's your job and you're selling products. You are physically selling products, like, but. Well,
my partner's doing face painting now, so in a way, and balloon modelling for things.
Yeah. What's the name of it again?
Loopy La.
Yeah, because I was looking at him and it was like...
And loopyla.com is our website, but we put the website together and we made the videos. We shot the videos in here. I do shoot the odd thing. In fact,
I noticed the green screen, all right. I was like, that isn't an upturned snooker table about it.
Patrick and Joe were shot in here.
Were
Joe
they?
And Patty, yeah.
Because the boys...
They're right there.
They did...
and green screening.
Did they do one the other day of Joe coming out as being a farmer?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was shot there.
And I was laughing because Pat has himself named as Tom the Tipperary Culture, basically. And I'm like, is that me, Pat? You could have asked my permission if you were going to be me.
Yes, he was. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's got a thing about that, because there was a thing, Patrick. There was a thing we were. Funny enough, we were talking about a script one time. I think we even did a proposal, and it was going to be these sort of new Garth Brooksy type farmers that you used to see at the mart with the little microphone, and we were saying, just Tom, and this stuff and everything. Probably on the slide, because Tom will be able to tell us all this inside knowledge about cattle and stuff.
Actually, I was just for the laugh. I went to a market the other day, and it's worth going to because it's so out of, because I've been living in cities for years, more than half my life. But so sometimes it's good to yourself going to see anything. It's like going on holidays. It's that diverse to what you and I see on a daily basis.
Yeah,
it's worth popping into a mart in some local town. They're always on Thursdays.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them.
I'm not joking with you. It's just the interaction of. It's all blokes. There's just very few women. It's as
gender balance.
No,
I can imagine how it'd be.
I don't think women would want to be at things but it. Now there are some
of the things that are left where there's a gender imbalance. I think probably women should be thankful.
Absolutely. That's the thing.
I have to say.
There'll be
Mind you, the game shop in town, I noticed this shop called Game where they paint soldiers and have the game. Serious gender imbalance there.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the lads
yeah.
in there don't want that imbalance. They probably want some
Technology
more
and music as well seems to be there's a bit of a way to go to
but you know what,
address the imbalance
do
there.
you know what, I'm sure it could be addressed in the morning, but there comes a point with some of these things where women are like, no, you're grand. You're grand. You can hang on to that shit, actually.
Yeah.
If I had to go in and smell cows' holes for 2 hours, no, you're absolutely fine. I'll stay doing what I'm doing. But it was just just like that, it would blow your mind just to stand in and just see how, if you watch People for People, like, and just see the environment inside there and how it's not half as blokey as you think.
Right. Okay,
do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
actually. It's not as intimidating as you think, and it's not because they didn't know who I was or what I was.
Yeah,
it was just out of nosiness. I went in there, like, and I just started asking about. One bloke was selling a bunch of chickens.
Yeah,
and he's the nicest bloke, but it was so different to what you'd normally see.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see. I mean, I'd be classic. I grew up in Dublin. Both my parents are from Dublin.
Where are you from in Dublin?
You
near Clonskea originally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Millmount Terrace is where I grew up. This place, it's on the Dundrum Road.
Yes.
Near Word Avenue, for anyone who knows. Windy Arbour, sort of between Milltown and Dundrum, sort of that kind of. My parents now live in Dundrum, but yeah, that's kind of where I grew up. I don't know if there's.
It's not exactly. It's not a rough part
really.
of Dublin. It's a nice part of Dublin, though, isn't it?
It is now. It was kind of one of these. I mean, they were a terraced house, so it was kind of a working class road.
Right.
But it had this sort of mixture of aspirational working class and sort of others, and we probably fell into that category.
Right.
But that did mean there was certainly a clash there, you might say. Your wing mirrors and wipers would be snapped off. Like,
really? Yeah.
because you lost the run of yourself a bit. So there was that. And I was sent to it was the Christian Brothers, but I was sent to a Christian Brothers school in sort of Mount Merrion, so that was pretty middle class. Like that was
if it was in Mount Merrion, it was certainly middle class. Yeah.
So I would have been. I know there was a good lot sort of from around my area. You would have got the bus out to that school. Unfortunately, the 86 bus was the one we used to have to get, and it was often late, which resulted in you getting a bit of a beating. As well as probably having a troubled attitude towards the Irish language, the CIE is probably I've got a damaged relationship with that as well. So I had this kind of thing, a bit of middle class, a bit of working class in there, and but there was a kind of a mix in the area because Burge Avenue was near us, which was very middle class, and then there was Mulvey Park and Columbanus, which were kind of council estates, and so you mixed with both, and our youth club had a mixture, which was quite healthy actually for all concerned, I think, and but there was I don't know if there's anyone that wasn't wasn't many people there who would have been in the media. I believe one of the guys who grew up on our road is an ambassador.
Really?
Yeah, for our
giving out Ferrero Rocher everywhere.
Yeah, in some Eastern European countries, so the Irish ambassador. So that was obviously pretty impressive. So he was from one of the.
But did he know that he grew up near Ding Dong Denny O'Reilly? Is the reality?
Well, he would have just been down the road. I used to hang around with his brother, just try. I don't think there was anyone famous grew up on the road or anything like that, And
the other character, you had some other characters as well. You had Tony St. James as well.
Tony St. James, yeah, that was one I used to do. We had the Joshua Trio, which was this thing.
I forgot about that, yeah.
I was working in Hot Press, and myself, I used to work, Arthur Matthews, who wrote Father Ted. The two of us worked side by side. He was like the art director, and I was the art assistant. I used to do graphic design. That's what I did in college.
Right.
So that was like the best fun you could ever have, to tell you the truth. It was kind of mad, and there was a lot of other mad kind of characters who worked.
This is in Hot Press. Yeah, when was this then?
1987 to 89, I think I worked in there.
Right.
There was George Bourne and Liam Fay and Damien Corliss. These people
Yeah,
were all
yeah.
part of the production room, and like it was just. We were, mind you, we were like children, really, just acting the just annoying Niall Stokes, who was extremely indulgent of us, to be honest. Like the shit he put up with all of us, really. And like,
was it continuously going to gigs and then going to work?
Going to gigs and, well, you know, you'd be going to gigs and going to gigs, but just generally it'd be fun. It was, I suppose that was the thing. You were at an age, all of your friends went out. So when we did the gigs, and we knew all the journos, because, so we did this thing, the Joshua Trio. I used to just be singing U2 songs in a swing style, taking the piss. Arthur played drums, and he says, we should get together and actually have a practice and just see what would happen with this.
Yeah.
And so we did, and then we made a tape of the rehearsal. My brother played the bass for the first time. He'd never played a bass before in his life. And he played the guitar. And he was, I think he was about 17 or something. And so we did that. And then everybody was saying, oh, Jesus, you should do a gig. And then we did. And we were on the TV about 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
On Night Hawks or something. So it was a bit like, because I suppose we were in the know a bit because we happened to be working in there, but it sort of all snowballed a bit, you know, and we had to smarten up and get a bit better at it.
So by accident you fell into...
Yeah, and Graham Linehan used to be doing characters in the gigs, and he'd be helping write these. We used to have little scripts in the middle of it, and, you know, like we had one where one of the Christmas gigs, like we had this thing of, we were like the three wise men going back to the baby Bono to give him gifts. A red guitar, 3 chords, and the truth. And then he lost the truth. But I think Graham was the Joshua tree. Basically, we had this duvet that, believe it or not, they were selling duvets with the Joshua tree on it, so Graham wore that. And then Liam Fay was the baby Bono in a cradle, because he's very tall.
Where did you do this?
It would be in the Bagot Inn. I mean, this was a mad time. Sure, I mean, you know, it was. The best known thing was, I suppose, that I came in on a donkey into the Bagot Inn. Like, I did it 3 times. I think people reckon it happened once, but it was one of those things we got a notion about. And there used to be, do you know the Badass restaurant?
Yeah.
It used to have this donkey. They used to hire out this donkey, and it would go around town with a badass cart. And I was, where the hell would we get a donkey? The Badass donkey. And this friend of mine, he traced it down. He went up to a pub in Stony Batter and did a deal with this guy. Yeah, 40 quid. I'll pull up in a van. That's to pay for the van, more or less. I'll pull up to the laneway in the Bagot Inn at whatever it is, 9 o'clock, and you get the donkey out, and there you go. And so we did this. He drives along. We come along, and we were basically going to get it in the fire exit on the sly, because the fire exit wouldn't have set off alarms in those days, really. So we were going to do it. We had the donkey, and the bouncer saw the donkey, and it was like, no way, I'm not bringing a donkey in here. No way.
Can you imagine how fired you would be right now?
Can you imagine how good this would be if you let it happen? Oh my God. And he said, no way. And eventually, after various conversations, look, you'll have to run it by Charlie. Charlie was the owner.
Was it Chalk?
No, Charlie.
He owns the boat. Sorry.
No, his brother owns the keys and go. God, what's his name? Jesus.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
And your man says, put the donkey in the toilets. So the donkey was there. The toilets were near here, and the donkey went into the thing. And so and I'd heard the stories, and I couldn't believe it. I opened the door, and there was a donkey in the toilet. And you're going, what the hell is going on here? And so anyway, and to my surprise, Charlie says, yeah, sure, go. So in we go. And as I know, I've told this story loads of times, but I found out that apparently there's more people in the world kicked to death by donkeys every year than die in plane crashes. And I had a fear of flying, so I had this notion of the statistic as I'm sitting on the donkey in my head.
So are you plodding into the pub from the Jags on the back
with
of
the theme from the Moses TV programme. It's a kind of like, dressed in robes.
Would be that would be one of the greatest things. Somebody who didn't know was about to happen. And was
the audience didn't know, and it was funny. I do remember them, like, you know, mouths open, like, you know, just like, oh my God, oh no. You know, like, really.
Okay.
So, like, you know, it was one of those. You knew when it happened. Like, it was like, this is something I'll remember for the rest of my days. You know, one of those moments. It's like, and after it even, I can't believe it. I was so delighted with myself. It was like I had won an Oscar or something. It was like, I did this. It was like, you know.
So what? Just to get an idea of the livestock situation. So you take it out of the jacks.
Yeah.
You lead it to the stage area.
Yeah, jump onto it. Get up on it. Get up on it, hey man. Whatever. I think he gave it a little smack on the arse, and in it went. And you're kind of thinking, and I think there was all this. Don't play the music too loud. Don't, you know? Be all right. Donkeys are okay. The next time we did it, I said, "No, be careful him. He's not. He's a ginnet. He's not a donkey." You know, I still don't know what a ginnet is. You know,
I'm not sure what a ginnet is either, but I know they're not happy. You know what I mean? They're cranky. So you definitely could have gotten kicked by a ginnet.
Right, so, okay, yeah. They're seen by the tone of his voice, it seemed like extra care was required.
Don't mess with the ginnet. So what, did you take it in, walk around and take it back out, or did you?
Yeah, just went in, and I think then I got off it, and then it was...
There isn't a greater stage entrance that I've ever heard of in the world, and that includes boxers, everybody...
Yeah, I heard of a guy, there was some guy, a big artist, who used to come in on a horse, all right, or did come in on a horse one time, but not into somewhere like the Bag It Inn. I think that was like a festival or something. He'd come in, you know, but I mean...
The Bag It Inn.
Yeah, like, the Bag It Inn, yeah.
That's, oh my God. And that Badass, I think, is still open. It's in Temple Bar, isn't it?
That's it, is. Yeah, Jesus, yeah. I was doing gigs in it. There was the dark comedy night.
Was that you, was it?
I used to do gigs in it, but...
Was that gig
I had realised at one time I used to be edgy, and Christ almighty, with some of the material that was on that night, I might as well have been playing nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
Which I was like... Yeah, some of it, there was some pretty scary material going on there.
Yeah, I was in at one of the dark ones, because it was on another night as well, and they had, and there was an element of some of the stuff I was listening to was, all right, you're just angry. All right.
Yeah, there was.
You're quite angry, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Shit, I came here to actually make people laugh with some of my darker stuff.
There was some good stuff. They were going beyond what I was ever going to go. Well, I mean, it wasn't really. That wouldn't have been. I didn't do that kind of material, really. I suppose not really. In a kind of a way, I would say what I did wasn't on PC, in the sense it was more like, you know, about nationalism and stuff like this, and religion and things like that. But not, you know, certainly I certainly wouldn't have been doing rapey material or anything like that, you know. And not out of a sense, you know, it wouldn't be...
It's how do you make it funny, you know?
Yeah, and I don't really have a desire, you know. I mean,
I think you need
I'm not into censorship, but I kind of, you know, I'm happy enough that they would say it, but I kind of, you know, I don't think it's something I would feel good about doing, really. I don't.
Actually, as we talk about it, it hadn't popped into my head. We were talking about the great age that we live in and all the rest of it. Was there elements of us going sideways and backwards a bit? You hear about your man that he's actually been convicted?
Who?
Your man with the pug. That this is in the last.
Oh yes, week. I did hear about that. I'm very reluctant talking about some of that.
It's
gender
strange,
politics stuff. I don't like the idea of shutting down debate. I don't like the idea.
That's the thing. I think debate is actually.
Like I'm happy to talk with people. I'm happy to hear people who have an opinion that I disapprove of.
Yeah, but I think that's people are frightened of of that nowadays.
Well, what's going to happen when? I mean, the right are the ones who ultimately who'll be more than happy that we're shutting down debate. You know, when it's their turn to start shutting down debate, you know, we'll see. You know, God knows, you know. Well, you see, I when I grew up, I suppose, in terms of saying outrageous material, you know, I grew up when any amount of things weren't allowed to be said.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, also on the subject, I mean, it's still illegal to say anything blasphemous in Ireland.
Yeah.
Like you know, like Atheist Ireland play, you know, Mick Nugent's a friend of mine, you know, who's head of Atheist Ireland, but
Right.
like, I mean, they have one of my songs, The Ballad of Jesus Christ, on the website as here's a blasphemous thing. There's a bunch of stuff they have on to say that it's blasphemous, and like, you know, you should be able to be blasphemous if you want, type of thing, you know. And you know, like, you know, in Ireland, certainly for many years, the one thing they would have wanted you to say, you can't criticise religion, you know, that would have been, you know, so I didn't think that was a very good situation. So, but I'm not very happy. I'm very troubled with shutting down.
Yeah, because like your man,
by all means, argue with them and make these people explain why.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, yeah, mauling women in the workplace. Explain why that's a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
Thing,
yeah. But that's,
you know, and I would have thought, you know, it should be possible to show how obnoxious that opinion is, or whatever.
Pretty easy, yeah.
you know,
and that's the thing. I think what it boils down to is that people are frightened to debate. It's like, why don't we all agree? It's like, we don't all have to agree.
Yeah,
a bit of an old row can be good. Do you know, a bit of an outset too, like, and shake hands afterwards if we still agree to disagree or whatever. But it's good to have a bit of an old schmozzle, verbal schmozzle, like, I think anyway.
Well, I would say it's probably cyclical, this, because I've been around the block a couple of times, obviously more than, well, I'm being modest, say a couple of times. Let's be honest here.
No, I'm going to leave you at a couple.
You know,
you can be any age you want on this podcast, Paul.
But you know, in the 80s, when I was in art college, I mean, you know, it was very PC. Political correctness was very fashionable then. You know, I can remember the Glam Tarts, this band we had at the Glam, our posters were banned in Trinity. And
why?
Because the word tarts was seen as derogatory to women.
Right.
Then also, I did a poster, I remember, for one of the end of year balls in NCAD, and I took this image from Gone with the Wind, where this woman's coming down the stairs in a ballroom dress, and there's this sort of silhouette of a guy at the door, and that was basically pulled down, saying it was showing the woman in a sort of subservient role, the guy calling for her and her coming down. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, that was a bit silly, really, I suppose. But there was...
right now, you could totally see that. That what you just said could totally fit into an online news article today.
You know, well, I mean, we are... I'm somewhat ambivalent, because I think a lot of this stuff is kind of good.
No, there's no doubt that...
You know, I think it is great that now people with all different ways, like transgender people, I think it's brilliant. How the hell must that have been like when I was 70s, to be someone who, you know, was transgender? You know, it would be hell. You know, so this idea that we have to show now, you know, that these people give them respect, I think this is all great. This is great. This is good stuff about our time. But, you know, I remember in the 90s, though, the Glam Darts were playing the Trinity Ball. Like, you know, so we were on the Trinity poster. So, like, it turned around, and then the 90s, to be honest, which actually I think probably was some of it I didn't like. You know, all the lad mags came in, Nuts and all these things. And suddenly it was kind of cool to be on PC, and, you know, and some of what Ricky Gervais would have been about was, you know, although I did love The Office, the way he would show the hypocrisy of David Brent supposedly being PC, when it was all just amazing. You know, him or her. You know, you know, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, but now it's kind of, you know, I think it's come round again. And, you know, and what do I, you know, Me Too, really, you know, for the most part, you know, I agree with all this stuff. But my main thought, the main thing that would be good, you know, if Me Too, if there's going to be something good comes out of it, there should be legislation to stop men I think there should be legislation to stop fellas putting their arm around and their hand on women's legs in the workplace and all the rest of it. I mean, one of my sisters got harassed in the workplace, and it was hell. You know, she was like really badly disturbed by it, and couldn't do a whole lot about it. Like, and every single day, this apparently would
But that
come
shit's
on.
going on, like, yeah.
And like you would think, well, let's put in legislation, and then we'd have something concrete out of this.
Yeah. Because, and what it would do is it would separate the innocent from the guilty. Do you know what I mean? If legislation's there, don't be doing that shit.
Yeah.
Don't be doing that shit. It's simple as that. And once you're not,
I've seen it. I know. I can imagine how it goes. Because, I think of, like certain things you've worked on film set. There's certain guys, and it seems, I'm not one of these, natural for them to put their arm around. I mean, I'm still of an era where when people come around and hug and kiss you on the cheek, I'm actually, I'm uncomfortable with this. I just can't do this. This is beaten out of me. You understand that?
A conversation I had with my parents the other evening, and this will actually, I did just as a throwaway, this is going to make you uncomfortable. We're talking about this guy who, he's a relation of a brother-in-law, of a relation, and he just came up in conversation between the three of us, and he went, "Oh, that guy, such and such doesn't really, I don't know him, but such and such doesn't like him. He's a bit of a misogynist, like, And I said, "Oh, right." And she goes, "But whatever about that," said my mother. "It's the last time I saw him, he kisses his adult children on the lips."
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't care what way you split your timber. With a young child, okay, if that's, even for me, personally, I can't. I can't deal with it. But, like, when your son's a bloke and you're like, "Hey, son, lovely to see you," and it's a big snog going on, like,
it's sort of
there's certain things to be left in certain. You know what I mean? Now, there's people who are going to disagree with me. And go, everything should be okay. Okay, well, for me, personally,
I kind of think there is a. You see, I kind of wonder how do you legislate for it. I think you have to legislate. I mean, I was saying, like, there was a situation, like a thing I was working on, and there was a guy, very nice bloke, and everybody loved him, and say all the women on the set loved him. The gift of the gab, a very nice guy.
Right.
Nothing, was married, had a kid. There was nothing, but whatever it was, he had this strategy to have his arm around, various members of them. They'd be sitting on his knee, laughing and joking away. And but that there'd be someone else if they put their arm around it. I can imagine if I did it for a start, it would immediately say, for a start, it's not going to happen really. But I think you have to have the rule in the workplace. Look, there's a rule in here, and sitting on the knee and putting the arm around is out. Look, and lads, it's clear. I don't care if people are comfortable with you, but we can't really, because the weird guy in the corner who has a different idea about this.
The other side, because I thought about it, and because theatre is I'm new to theatre myself, but I've been kind of heavily involved with the University Panto down in Limerick the last couple of years. And that was, an eye-opener, because you're going, wow, this is a whole range of people I didn't know existed. And it's lovely, because I love putting myself in weird scenarios where I don't see these people. But you want to watch all the dancers and how they behave, men, women, and all the rest.
Right.
They lie all over each other like some sort of crazy harem. There's no way they're going to listen to that legislation.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? Because we're dancers. This is where we lie down on top. They lie on top of each other like a family of cats.
Yeah,
Do you know? And they're not going to.
So I wonder. Yeah,
it's a tricky one.
Yeah, it is.
It's not for you or me to write that legislation anyway. Yeah. I want to get onto Keano.
Oh yeah.
What a show! And I'm not a huge football fan, but I went to see that a couple of years back, and I absolutely loved it.
Right, yeah, God, well, I mean, I was really glad of it. I'll tell you, it kept me
brilliant
going for a while. I have to say as well,
but
I mean, it was brilliant to do and everything. And
how long did it take you to? Or what was the inspiration? Obviously Saipan. What were you seeing when you knew the story was unfolding of Saipan? You were like, this is.
Well, I mean, it was a good while after it happened. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah. I remember. I don't even know whether there was at one stage. I remember we were doing this show. I think Looney Live was called on RT Radio. Myself and Arthur Matthews, and there was a bunch of people in it, and another like Kevin Burns, and we kind of wrote most of the material really, and Wishtard and people were in it. Wishtard Cooper but. I remember I had one idea scribbled down on a thing, all right, about a supposed news item about a play, a they were going to do the Saipan incident as a musical, you know, and
Right.
it was like, actually, yeah, how ridiculous that would be, like, you know, that this little musical society were doing this. I don't know if that's where Arthur got the idea, you know, because it was one idea that we had, because it was like, that was a couple of years earlier, and then Arthur sort of said, I have this idea for a musical that we have this thing. It's like it's set in Roman times, and it's basically the Saipan incident. And it was Arthur, as a lot of Arthur's ideas, they come fully formed. You know, like,
right.
You know, I talked about it to Patrick, and we both know Arthur well. And most people you do work with, you kind of can see where the idea comes from. Oh, right, that's it either. Arthur seems to have this knack. You're sitting there and an idea comes out, and it's fully formed, and it's... Wow, where did that come from? Where he's access to somewhere that I don't. You know, that kind of way. And there, you know, but he came with this idea, and he had written up some of it, and there it was, and it was like, wow, like it was like, this is amazing. And then he got myself and Mick Nugent, the same Mick Nugent who's head of Atheist Ireland, and like we did the thing between the three of us. I did the music, really the songs, and they did the script. Really, I did do some bits of the script in later versions of it, but that was kind of how it split, you know, and that was it. It was a ramshackle enough process in a way. Like, I mean, they had a first draft done up, and it was all that, and it was rehearsed, and then, you know, and there'd be some suggestions where there'd be songs, but we didn't really know how you put a musical together. I mean, really, in a way, you know, like it was like maybe that Arthur had suggestions where he thought there'd be good songs and some titles, like There's a Tragedy Unfolding, that was one, and that, as you can imagine, it's so percussive, this phrase, it almost writes itself. There's a tragedy unfolding, you know.
Yeah.
But then there were other ones, and then gradually it was kind of like in the middle of rehearsals, even all the operatic stuff in Keano, the whole big opera stuff. That I came up with that idea while the rehearsals were on.
Really?
I kind of, do you know what would be amazing? A showdown, because they were having problems, I think, with the showdown, and it was like, I think it would really work if we did this like an opera and really did it over the top. And I really rushed in. I came in one day with the guitar, and I said, that's how I see it. And I played the operatic bits, singing along with the guitar. You can imagine how, in fairness to the director, it take quite the imagination to be able to see, oh yeah, I see what you mean.
But isn't that must have been class, to like it in that day and go, I think we should do it. And
well, there was also a brilliant musical director, David Hayes, who was able to, like, you could say, yeah, I'd love to be trying to do it. Yeah, okay. And up to his studio, and every instrument one take, and suddenly it's sounding like, you know what I mean, Wagner or something, you know. And so that was, you know, but like there was a lot of it was done on the fly, and then there were bits dropped, and there'd be another song put in instead of this song, and all the rest. And then in the later versions, it was quite a different show. There was a whole musical section at the end where, you know, and we even had the kids singing this song, a bit like something from Oliver, and that wasn't in the early versions. And but even the opening song, I was sort of saying, I know it sounds bad, we were so naive, it was kind of like, I think you need a song to open a musical, you know? And that was it. And
well, that, you know what, there's faith to be, or there's, you know, that would give people faith, because if they're thinking of writing something, the fact that you were able to write Keano and you went, do you know what, I think a song is needed at the beginning of a musical. Yeah. That's where your naivety, now you had the talent, but your naivety of what an actor, you know.
It was not, it certainly wasn't like we had studied the form and all the rest, and we just did it intuitively, really. But then again, it was a great idea that Arthur had to have this thing like it's a Roman thing.
Yeah.
You know, you know. So when the idea is very strong, it solves a lot of your problems.
I get you. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's no convincing yourself, like
a comedy song. I always think, and you know, and even when it's on pictorial, like, you know, it seems to me, if you have the basic idea, if you have the title, you almost have the song.
Okay,
and you know, you're a comedian, you write material, so and all manner of things. So you'll come up with jokes. You know what I mean? You'll fill the verses up, because you will. You eventually you realise you're going to come up with
Just
jokes.
going to be funny. Yeah, once
know,
you have an anchor there, you'll be all right. Like,
you know,
build it
but
around it. Yeah.
the main idea, you need the big idea,
Yeah.
don't you? And I've no problems also collaborating. Like, say, even on Irish Pictorial, you'd go into Barry and you'd say, yeah, there's the thing, and and my approach would be to do loads of stuff. So, and then oh, I like that, that.
Well, that's the safer bet. Yeah,
and also I'm indecisive, so I probably is better for other people to make the decision for me anyway.
So,
but Barry would say, and Barry is decisive, so Barry would say, yeah, I like that, yeah, I think you need a stronger punchline at the end, and and he would say, yeah, how about that? And I'd say, yeah, that's better.
Fair enough. It was Barry Murphy. Like, you're not gonna. Yeah,
exactly. It was, so it was, it would always make it better. But yeah, I know. I never have a problem with that idea.
Is there anything else would you write another musical?
Oh yeah, no, I would. Yeah, absolutely. I do like. I that is one thing that the classic musical was still the dying days of it were when I was young.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like my sisters would have gone to see The Sound of Music. It was. I mean, it was in the theatre. It was in the cinema for 2 years. The Sound of Music.
Mother of Jesus.
Like, and every birthday, every day, what do you want to do? We're going to bring you out Sound of Music. No, not me. I saw it a couple of times, but my sisters would just keep going to it.
Okay. And
so, like, I would have had like these things like The Sound of Music, and all these things. My Fair Lady. They'd have been on the TV, and like, let's face it, we'd only 2 channels really. We'd UTV and RTE when I was growing up. Really, the BBC didn't come in well enough.
Yeah,
really.
yeah, same. Yeah,
and so you got to see a lot of these things. But even the kids' films, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and
of course,
Willy Wonka and all these things, they were kind of musical. So I kind of. And I like, I don't know, I'm always amazed how many of these musical songs I know, or they must have been on the radio all the time.
It must have been, yeah, but it's phenomenal. Whatever about, I don't know, they stick in my head a bit. My wife,
they're incredibly catchy,
unbelievably catchy. Like, it was.
It's funny. Like, I've played musical stuff to my kids, and I have an interest in it anyway, still to a degree, and you'd play things from musicals, South Pacific or something, and within, like, my daughter who's 8 was singing, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair, and you're like, Christ, these people really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And my son, what one was he liking? There's nothing like a dame, and I really didn't know what a dame was.
Yeah.
What's a dame?
It's a middle-aged man who likes to... Yeah, okay.
Like that kind. It's... but like, it is amazing how catchy these things were. Like,
wow.
And you kind of realize, God, all the same, this is not a form that's going to go away. It's not going away. Like, and so yeah, I do like it. What was brilliant about Keano was because of it being set in Roman times as well. It meant you could do almost anything because it was camp. You
It's like the Life of Brian.
Set it up. Yeah. So you could do any musical style because there was an element. If it was operatic, you weren't being serious. It was taking the piss kind of thing.
It's going to be silly. Like
So it was very. That was one great thing about it, that you could just keep mixing and matching these styles and throwing in bits of other songs like Bohemian Rhapsody or whatever it be, and it's funny, but it's funny because I mean it isn't really, when I hit my teens, that in a way, I mean when I was young, like the Beatles were still around when I was a kid. But we weren't really... I wasn't really into music really till I was about 12, and so like so the Beatles were broken up by... They were, when I was about 12 really, so it was glam rock was when that's when it really all worked for me. But I mean, they would have been all on the radio and all that growing up, so you would have obviously knew the songs. But it is funny, I think people think, oh, you grew up in the 60s and you were a kid in the 60s and music, you must love music. But it was George Best we were into. We all wanted to be George Best.
Of course,
not Paul McCartney. Everybody in a kind of, in a more working class area in particular, like it was just, in Dublin now, I gather Tipperary was probably GIA or Hurley or something or whatever. But but it was just soccer. That was it. Like, nothing else existed. Rugby didn't exist. So, rugby was a middle class thing. And,
of course, yeah.
And upper middle class at that. Like, I mean, it was GAA in my school. Also, we resented GAA because we weren't allowed to play soccer.
Right, yeah.
In fact, funny, in the school, that Irish brother, he used to blow. They used to stop for the Angelus in the middle of the game for one thing during games.
No,
Yeah.
no. I've never heard
Ireland.
something like that.
Yeah, and also
Jesus Christ! So no matter what you're doing, just stop.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then he used to give, if you didn't pick up the ball enough, he gave a free to the other side. So there'd be lads.
So if the ball was on the ground too often.
Say,
Oh my God.
Like, that was the level of.
What do you even call that foul? Like, you're soccering too much. Like,
yeah, like it was all. But I mean, another time the head brother in the primary school came in, and I don't know what. He came in and he started. We were very naive that we didn't spot what he was at. Like, he comes in, okay, how are you doing, lads? I haven't come in to talk to you in a while or whatever. And this guy was a bit of a brute, like, you know, we certainly didn't have affection towards this man who used to beat us when our bloody bus was late. So he'd come in and he says, how many of you were watching the football on Saturday there? And of course everybody. Yeah. Except one lad, I think, actually, who was from Portlaoise, who'd moved up to Dublin. And he was like, because in those days you wouldn't have got it. He was the classic culty uncle, Johnny Sullivan. Really nice bloke. Got on well, there wasn't like but he was like Rama, and I was kind of like, how many was watching? Oh, and who were playing? Of course, whatever it was, Leeds and Man U or whatever the hell. I can't remember who it was. Leeds and Manchester United. Okay, that was them. And who scored the first goal? And all these questions were answered instantly, and it was all whatever, blah blah blah, and it says. And moving on, or whatever. Probably didn't say that expression then, but whatever. Who was watching the game on Sunday? Because because they didn't do Sunday soccer, of course, at those days. And I was saying, one hand, Johnny.
Johnny stuck his hand up.
Yeah, and it was whatever, Tipperary and Kilkenny or something, whatever it was, and then of course it was all. One night, that is a disgrace, and it's very sad. Our national game, you all know what's going on across what the English have done to this country.
Oh my God!
Okay, lads. Well, I'll be calling in here again. So what I advise to you is you better pay a little more attention to what happens in your own national game.
Wow.
So you can so you're probably wondering when there's a small degree of hostility from an older generation, like
Jesus Christ,
where that's coming from,
Well, I got even when I played hurling and I played football and played soccer as well, but I just found I started playing rugby when I was 12, but not right. The thing about where I played rugby. It certainly wasn't middle class. It was just lads.
Yeah, I know that's true down the country because we used to play in the rugby clubs, and it came as a surprise to me.
Yeah, it was especially so close to Limerick too. It was very much you'd play it in the off season to stay fit. But I just found I was better at it because it was just too awkward really for hurling. You have to be parody or ballerina where they
right. Yeah,
it'd be fine if I grew up and wanted to play
it's
hurling.
Very fast as well.
Play hurling in Leitrim, but not when you're in Tipperary because the standard is so high. But the rugby, and I remember when we were finally allowed to have a schools team, and I started recruiting lads. Now we had a couple of lads who played rugby anyway from clubs, but I suggest we'll have a schools team. Look at the size of some of the lads that play hurling and football, big, tall lads. And I was probably about 17, going on 17, and I got a phone call to my parents' house. Somebody had covered their voice, and basically had said to cut out that Protestant shite. Don't you be stealing lads, like. And what was hilarious was I knew who it was, and I was kind of laughing on the phone, and my dad was like, who the fuck is that? I said, it's just Matt Ryan, he's being a fucking weirdo, he thinks it's a Protestant sport. He was like, what? What? And he felt so strongly. The same guy, like 5 years later, his daughter's going out with a very prominent rugby player. He knew every rule, where Munster were going wrong and everything. And you're like, just 5 years ago, you dickhead, you were...
Right, yeah.
So it's funny how attitudes can change too. And
it's funny that, like, when you hear about it now, because the ban would have existed then as well, of course.
Oh, yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
like, but like when you hear like the fellas that they would be going on to us about, like, you know, the heroes, like the Dublin team when they won, the Dubs won back in the 70s sometime, and I think one of the main guys had gone to our school. You can imagine how venerated he was, like, you know,
dirty.
You know what I mean? And nice bloke. People. I mean, it wasn't like I think there was a bit of interest in it when the Dublin team did well to a degree,
of course,
you know. But the resentment carried on through all of this sort of stuff, you know. And it was South Dublin, so you wouldn't have. There would have been a very different culture then to what the Christian Brothers would have been, you know. So it was and you know. But it bothers me to some degree, especially with music. Like, to some degree, I hated Irish music because it would be, again, you'd be in there and they'd be playing Plank City, like, or something like this. And, like, this was, you know, they'd be kind of almost tripping on how, you know, with this, you know, like, and it'd be, oh, what is it beautiful. You know, and, like, you'd put on, like, someone put on Horselips and they'd be vaguely tolerant of that because it was sort of Irish. But then one day, I think somebody, there's in the Irish, so you can play Irish music, and someone brought in Thin Lizzy or something. You imagine how well that didn't go down. You know, but they weren't having that. And, you know, the skin colour of... That's the odd thing about the Christian Brothers. The skin colour of Phil Lyons wouldn't have been a problem for them.
Okay.
Because, like, we would have got lectured on how awful South Africa is. Because Christian Brothers were quite left-wing.
Okay,
you know? So the whole thing about the North and republicanism, it was sort of... They would have been coming at it from the point of view... It's an odd thing that way, you know, that kind of way. So you had that going on, but it was kind of funny. But, like... It kind of bugged me because later on then you kind of realised as you started listening to more music and you hear things like Gloaming now and you kind of God, you know, like really I missed out of a lot of stuff that actually now I appreciate, and I kind of think, you know, there was a lot of good stuff here, and I you know, basically I was
they just put you off it, like,
it was kind of
Well, we do that whenever.
I met Donald only one day. He was at a Lamtart's gig with Eleanor McAvoy or whatever. And of course they were dead on and they were, you know, but you're almost imagining them to be a Christian brother vaguely.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, we do that with our own stuff anyway a lot of the time, don't we? Oh no, I'm sure it's much cooler across the water. Like, and stuff.
Oh yeah, God, I mean, I grew up in, you know, you see, this is probably what most people in Ireland, like my father, I mean, I grew up in a house that almost hated Ireland, you know.
Right.
My father had to go away to work in the 50s in England, and like he basically couldn't get work here. And I mean, he was, you know, it was really like dangerous stuff, as he said, like, you know, sleeping on a train because he couldn't afford a place to stay at night, working on the buildings in Liverpool, and, you know, and working at any number of jobs that he didn't even know how to do, you know, like, you know, chefing and God knows what, you know, but Ireland was so corrupt, so he would just, everything to do with Ireland was terrible. Yes, I grew up and you know, even Irish, would you look at them, look at our shower here doing this, you know, I grew up on this stuff, you know, listening to it. So, and I was of this, Patrick McDonald says the same, his so there was like that kind of, you know, oh, Jesus, look at her, you know, it's pathetic. And like, I've often said it as well, and one of my aunts in particular, she worked for Fruitfield Jam owned by Lambs, who were Quakers. But she kind of amazing woman. I you know, actually my three aunts who, if you know, they were empowered women before
empowered women were
empowered in Ireland. You know, and they were but she would have been similarly, like, you know, Protestants, you know, like she was a Catholic, but Protestants were great, you know.
Yeah, I get you. You know, something to aspire to be.
And we went in, and they had it was beautiful. They had the tables laid out beautiful, and they were all. I mean, they were really nice. And
they turned out.
Of course, they were Protestants. You know, stood to reason.
dirty old Catholics.
And they were so, beautifully turned out, and I say, I think it's my mother, even my mother would say, like, my father being Woodfull, I think going back a couple of generations were Protestants and were English or whatever. So, but they still would have. There's still a bit of that line in the family, So, even though they don't have an English connection now or anything really, but there would be still that thread. It's still, the way these things pass through generations. So, but they sort of have that sort of more English look, and but my mother would often say to me, and you know what, like, there was 4 children in their family. He says, Kieran and Anne, they got that beautiful Protestant Woodfull skin. You got the old Catholic O'Brien skin.
But there's a bit I do at the minute, and it's about gigging in Germany and looking at people who come from 10 generations of money. There's a different look to them. Do you know what I mean?
God, yeah,
they've really evolved. Their skin is just fucking class looking.
There is.
Not that old paddy skin that we have, because,
And they don't show off the money,
No, they're not doing the Conor McGregor on it, like,
But they say that in English, that the middle class are the class, although the middle class is now huge, but they said the middle class is the class that everyone despises, really.
Yeah.
Like, working class kind of despise them, but also the upper class and working class in a bizarre way kind of get on.
Yeah,
that thing.
It's true, and I've seen it. Yeah,
Lord Henry Mount Charles or someone would be hanging out with some
lad drinking cans.
Who becomes famous or something, footballer or something. I don't know, whatever. But I think that's. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a girl in my class who was. I won't try and give you. She was a lady. Something we never knew.
Right.
She was, the soundest person in the class. Like just dead on. Would have parties in her place. In fact, I got her thrown out. I did the DJing at one of her parties and got her thrown out of the flat.
Right.
So. But, and she, I often thought about that, God, and just nothing showy at all about about that, nothing about Flandre. I mean, if anything, but in fact, she wouldn't have even told us she was a lady, something or other. It would just tell you how, this was something she didn't, would prefer people didn't even know. She didn't want anybody to think this is what she was about, She was,
she didn't have to fake it. So, in closing, you have an album out this year. It's the...
it was kind of the, last year I brought out this, it was a project I did with this graphic designer friend of mine, Alistair Keady, who was in college with me, and he did all these. We kind of call it a band. He does all these visuals and videos for it, and I did the music kind of thing. So I brought it out, and as I say, it was recorded here, and
we'll have to give the studio a name. I
don't have a name for it.
You've got to give it a cool name.
Yeah,
I mean, you're
maybe as soon as I'm in Crumlin, in the heart of the Kinahan thing, maybe the ghetto or something. That sounds studio-ish, does it?
Oh, do you know what? When you were saying it like that, you're near Sun Drive Road, I was like, that's a great name for a studio. But I'm sure somebody already has. I know there's Sun.
I know 2 people who own studios in Crumlin.
Oh, Jesus.
In fact, one of them texted me while we were talking to say, "Do I want to go down to the cafe?" And he has a studio. In fact, I would. Some of the stuff in this room. This green screen and these lights we co-own. He's the bass player in the Camembert. The Late Late Show band.
Is it Paddy?
No, Cormac, bass player.
Yeah.
I know Paddy, but Cormac and I would kind of.
It's a very small world, isn't it?
Exchange things and what have you, and and record and whatever. And in fact, on previous stuff I'd done, I'd email him over whatever a track, he'd stick a bass down onto it, that type of thing, or whatever,
Modern technology.
He could do all that nifty kind of soul type bass and all that type,
right, yeah. And is the new album available?
Well, it's only digitally available.
We'll put it in. I'll put it in the link.
Because I brought it myself. Yeah, I mean, it's Aircraft of Tomorrow is the name of the project. That we have. And so it's me and the visual guy, and we have a website, aircraftoftomorrow.com, and we have? What else do we have? And there's videos on YouTube, and then there's my own website.
What's your website?
Well, paulwoodfull.com. 2 L's at the end of Woodfull, which...
And I'll put this into the description as well, so it'll pop up in iTunes, so people can just click straight through on it.
You know, so I videos... There's other music that I done as well that isn't part of that project, but the album was Aircrafted Tomorrow, so, you know, I was... It was one of those... I had really wanted to do an album of serious music and that I'd been doing, and I was terrified doing it, you know, that like, you know, oh yeah, right, stick with the day job, you know,
I get you, yeah.
But luckily it was, you know what I mean, as we know, music is, you know, I don't know how many people, you know, listen to it or whatever, like that kind of thing, but it was reviewed well, you know, so so I, you know, relief was my main reaction to that, to be honest, but it was like, delighted I've done it, but it was a scary prospect.
That's the idea of doing it. Come out of your comfort zone too, like, you know.
Yeah, it was one of those, and it was like, okay, here we go, you know, and you know, and it being so different to what I do. I mean, ambient electronic kind of music was certainly probably not what people thought was going to happen, you know.
Well, not from the fella who does Ding Dong Denny,
exactly.
You know, but I love that. That's class.
You know, so yeah, I was glad to do it. I mean, I have enough material even for another album, but I haven't a plan to do one yet, really. But but like, and I have a couple of other things I'm working on which I can't talk about.
I love that. But you are going to talk about it when you can talk about it. So
yeah, well, it might, of course, they mightn't work out ultimately, in which case I'll never talk about it.
Of course, yeah.
In which case I'll say, no, I forgot. What are you talking about?
No, there was never a thing. No. Well, so thank you very, very much, Paul Woodfull. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.